You are Locked On Pistons POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Detroit, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Statement made. The rest of the Eastern Conference on notice. Ladies and gentlemen, the Pistons are no joke. 8 straight wins for the Ballers from the Motor City. You got to love it. Welcome into a live Locked On Pistons postcast. I am your host, Jake Riepma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Riepma. And this is the Locked On Pistons postcast, post-game show. It's your one-stop shop for all things Detroit Pistons on the post-game side of things. All part of Locked On Sports Detroit, your team each and every day. Hey, don't forget your favorite podcast has a newsletter as well. You just got to go to LockedOnDaily.com and you can sign up for free. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and it's all you could ever want delivered right to your inbox for free. Start your day with the all-new free Locked On Pistons daily newsletter. Coming up on today's show, boy, do we have a special episode planned, because what a night it was. 8 straight wins for the Detroit Pistons. They snap a 12-game losing streak against the Boston Celtics and blow them out. We'll evaluate what went right, how good the Pistons were on the fast break, the points in the paint, and of course the bench points as well, and wrap it up with our studs and duds. It's an exciting live Locked On Pistons postcast, and it starts right now. If you're like me, you're feeling on Cloud 9, adrenaline, but I know it's regular season. But hey, this was an exciting game to watch, and the Pistons saw themselves jump out to a pretty big lead early on. But you know, this is the defending NBA champions, the Boston Celtics. They shoot the lights out from 3 in the second quarter. You know they're coming back. It's tied at the halftime break. Now, this Pistons team showing some grit, showing some resolve, showing some really just the makings of a very, very formidable team, and coming to play in that second half, outscoring the Celtics 35-24 in the third quarter, 27-18 in the fourth quarter, and putting it on cruise control. You absolutely love to see it. And like I mentioned, 8 straight wins for the Detroit Pistons, who, don't look now, are putting the rest of the Eastern Conference on notice. And this is everything we hope for. When we endured the days, and I don't even want to think back to the days that we endured, but man, there were some low points with the Detroit Pistons. And really, I mean, going all the way back to 2000, we talked about when Cade made the All-Star game. It was the first All-Star since Blake Griffin in 2019. We're in 2025, people. And man, this is a long time coming, but it is appointment viewing. It's a captivating team that plays hard. And JB Bickerstaff in year number 1, Trajan Langdon in year number 1, has this team looking like the once proud franchise that were the Detroit Pistons. And I think it's safe to declare this team is back. The Detroit Pistons are a wagon, and it's time for the rest of the league to take notice. We're going to take your comments as well, because I know there's a lot of people that want to get in. Like me, we are fans that have waited a long time for a night like this. And I know it's a regular season in February. I'll relax a little bit, but at the same time, this has been trending in the right direction and on the right trajectory for a long time. And this isn't the end by any means, but this is a very, very significant step for the Detroit Pistons. You talk about a measuring stick game, you talk about a benchmark game. This was exactly that in every sense of the word, because you've got the defending champions coming into your building. How do you respond? You've won 7 in a row coming in on this one, and there was all the makings for, hey, it's been a good winning streak, but you know, we're not quite at the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference. But no, Malik Beasley, Cade Cunningham, the entire crew came ready to play and showed what this team is about. Now a season best 7 games over 500 at 33-26, 16-3, and just great stuff all the way around from the Detroit Pistons. I've talked about Malik Beasley a little bit already, but man, was he good off the bench. 26 points, 6 of 11 from deep. We're going to talk more about how good the bench was, because that was one of several areas in which the Pistons had overwhelmingly the upper hand. Now, again, I mentioned that this ends a long losing streak against the Boston Celtics that dates back several years. So this was the fourth and final meeting, and good for the Pistons to get a win in this one because Boston won pretty handedly back in December, 123-99, and then the 10-point win also in December. And I believe it was the first game of the season, or at least close to it, because it was October 26th. The Celtics won 124-118. But the Pistons get it done tonight. And I thought Cade Cunningham post-game with FanDuel's Natalie Kerwin said it best, that this is what we're about. This is who we are. And tonight was an example of that. And again, it's just such a fun team to get on board with, to root for, and they make a huge statement tonight. So appreciate everybody tuning in. We got a huge audience for a live Locked On Pistons reaction show. Shout out to Ku Kahil on the Locked On Pistons Daily Show. If you're a regular listener to that, welcome to the post-game show, the post-game side of things. If you're new to Locked On Sports Detroit, do me a favor and subscribe, because we do this after every game. We do this after Tigers games. We do this after Lions games and Michigan football as well. It's a live Locked On post-game show. Let's get to some of the comments, because I want to get some shout outs going early and often, and let me know what stood out to you, or if you're just freaking fired up like I am, let me know. We got Ryan Bartone checking in. Let's go Pistons. We got Frank Norman saying, I told you all. We've got Darth Twerk saying, holy S. Yazen says this team is on fire. Average says maybe Jaylen Brown should have played instead of hoping Peyton Pritchard would bail them out. All right, already making the excuses that there was no Jaylen Brown tonight. But hey, the Pistons were without Dennis Schroeder, and I know it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, but if you want to talk about guys that were both out, the Pistons weren't at full strength either, which is an example of another guy that stepped up tonight in Marcus Sasser. He was plus 19, 8 points on the evening, 3 of 8 from the floor, but I thought he played great defense, couple of assists in there, took care of the ball as well, and did what he was asked. And I think at halftime, they said it best, when he stayed ready so he wouldn't have to get ready. Great stuff there. All right, who's up next? Yazen says this team's on fire. Mark with the great point, the bench was terrific. Yeah, we're going to do a whole talking point on the bench of how good this Detroit Pistons bench team was tonight, because you look at that team box score, and that's an area you can circle in red pen, in which the Pistons were far and away the better team with the bench points, because you look at the points from the bench tonight, and the Pistons were just overwhelmingly better. You know, you got guys like Malik Beasley off the bench. You've got heck, even Lindy Waters getting in there. So 26 for Beasley, 8 for Sasser, 8 for Ronald Holland. I thought it was one of his best games of the night. 2 for Paul Reed, 4 for it looks like Isaiah Stewart had 4 points as well. So you talk about a bench that came ready to play. It was, in fact, the Detroit Pistons bench. And I think it was an interesting point about Peyton Pritchard versus Malik Beasley, 2 guys that are considered to be, you know, the race for the 6th man of the year. And Malik Beasley was far and away better than Peyton Pritchard tonight. And that's a statement game. There is no doubt about that. You talk about a big audience when you got a national brand like the Boston Celtics, the defending champions, and so on and so forth. Those are all things that stand out as far as how Malik Beasley was so good tonight for the Detroit Pistons in that race for the 6th man. But appreciate everybody tuning in. It's a live Locked On Pistons postcast. We've got a few more comments to get to. And yes, Jaylen Brown was talking trash about the Pistons last year. Too scared to play tonight. You got to love it. Mr. My City, a regular on the Locked On Pistons postcast. We ain't scared of them guys. Anybody can get it. Let's effing go. We just won the last game with a blowout. That's right. Blowout win, 8 straight. Man, you're feeling good if you're a Detroit Pistons fan. Kenyatta Stovall says, yeah. We've got Moses Rio saying, please, NBA, don't put us on the map. Don't put us on the map. I want to be the underdog role. Well, hey, when you keep playing games like this, the rest of the league is on notice. There is no doubt about that. Demetrius McNeil, one of our regulars, that's 8 wins for the Pistons, playing like their best. Did you see the Michigan State half-court shot to beat Maryland? Yeah, that was another one. I was going to mention that at some point, but wow, Michigan State with a half-court shot to win it at the buzzer in Maryland. So if you're a State fan, if you're a Pistons fan, tonight was a memorable Wednesday evening for you in February. All right, a couple more. Mr. $1 for life, Detroit basketball. Yeah, get the Detroit basketballs in the comments. 3 Mr. Wright says Detroit basketball. And hey, this is the vision that Trajan Langdon, the front office, and JB Bickerstaff had for this team. And yes, you count on guys to take significant steps forward, Cade Cunningham being at the top of the list, Malik Beasley, and so on and so forth. But this was, make no mistake about it, this was not happening under the previous regime. I mean, you get Monty out of there, you get Troy Weaver out of there, and I know I've gotten into it with people in the past in the comments. I don't want to do that tonight, but I do want to reiterate how different this year is and how much more the ship is going in the right direction, or the fact that the ship is going in the right direction at all, because it wasn't under the previous regime. And you've got largely the same players. You've made, of course, a couple of additions. You got the addition of Ronald Holland as well. And Asar Thompson, he was tremendous tonight. Let's hope he's okay. He left the game a little bit early with that lower body injury, so we'll continue to monitor that. But man, this is a team that continues to overachieve. And you know what? I say this all the time, but we've got a lot of new people on the stream right now, and there's no such thing as playing with house money. I hate that term. But man, this Pistons team has accelerated the rebuild and getting to a respectable point and becoming a formidable team in the Eastern Conference. If the season ended right now, there is not a single team in the National Basketball Association that wants to be faced off against the Detroit Pistons in the first round of the NBA playoffs. I'll say that. All right. Deep breath time, because, man, I'm feeling excited. I'm going 100 miles per hour. That's the beauty of a live reaction show. We're going to take a quick break and dive into a little bit more of what happened in this game and how the Pistons were so successful and what lies ahead. Huge game Friday night against the Denver Nuggets. And I think George Blaha said it best when he said, bring on the Denver Nuggets, baby. So the Pistons defeat the Boston Celtics tonight. All around terrific effort from the guys. 117-97, the final in this one. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we've got our In the Game segment where we go through how the Pistons were victorious in this one. That's coming up next on a live Locked On Pistons postcast. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Pistons postcast is brought to you by Robinhood. That's right. Today's episode brought to you by Robinhood. And listen up and listen good, because I've been telling you about Robinhood, but now you know. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive, my friends. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on an annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 per month for 1 year. From first match, you must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial, LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. All right. Shout out to whoever wrote that ad copy for the Robin Hood Gold. I mean, they just are brutal. But there we go. I probably shouldn't say that, but hey, here we are. Locked On Pistons postcast. The Detroit Pistons defeat the Boston Celtics. You absolutely love to see it. 117-97, 33-26 is the Pistons record. Now 16-13 at home. It's an 8-game win streak, and it ends a 12-game losing streak against the Boston Celtics. Back to some of your comments, because hey, this is a collaborative environment. That's what makes the live show fun. You get your voice heard on a live Locked On Pistons. Bob Yang saying, hope Asar is okay. I do as well. They had the lower body injury, and I don't think anything new has come out. I checked Twitter right before I hopped on the live feed here, and I had not seen anything. But yeah, he is pivotal to the success of the Detroit Pistons, and man, was he good again tonight. You talk about the defense that he plays, and as a whole team, the Pistons played tremendous defense, but 27 minutes for Asar, 3 of 6 from the floor. He was plus 15. Also added the 6 rebounds and 2 assists, 5 steals. He gets it done on the defensive end. There is no doubt about it. Bob Yang saying statement game for the 6-man Beasley. Absolutely. Good question here from Ronald McDonald, 1977. My brother and I were actually having the exact same discussion, as was a good buddy of mine, just talking ball. Does the ball move the same way once Ivy's back? And that question certainly becomes more and more prevalent, because listen, this team is playing their best basketball of the season, and they're doing it without Jaden Ivey. And I don't think that takes anything away from Jaden Ivey. I think he's a terrific player, has a spot with the Detroit Pistons, but that is going to be an acclimation process when he comes back to the lineup. But I certainly think he can continue to be an asset for the Detroit Pistons once he's back in the lineup and healthy. Okay. More comments to get to. Jim and Denise. Ron Holland, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 18 minutes. The 19-year-old is growing up right before our eyes. I do think it was a night in which Ron Holland took a major step forward. And when he's playing at that confident level, he can do some damage. And you saw that tonight. And there's been times I've been really critical of Ron Holland, but you know, he is a rookie. He's very, very young and so on and so forth. But, man, you saw the promise and the potential of the young star tonight, which was great to see. Everything was great to see tonight. It really was. I mean, aside from that 15-0 run the Celtics went on when they were just draining threes in that second quarter, which, again, you knew they would, because let's call a spade a spade. The Boston Celtics are a very good basketball team. And Johnny Kane said this, I have to double check, but they might be still the odds-on favorite to get back to the NBA Finals, despite the Cavaliers having a better record per se. But just in terms of the Vegas betting lines, they might look at Boston as a more favorable team to come out of the Eastern Conference and make the NBA Finals. All right, a couple more comments to get to. Moses Rio says, is our Pistons good enough to beat the Bucks now? I certainly think so, and I'll resort to the statement I made earlier. There's not a team in the Eastern Conference right now that would want to play the Detroit Pistons in an opening round playoff matchup. I believe that wholeheartedly. All right. Lots of comments to get into, and I don't want to ignore all of them, but I do want to get into the nitty-gritty of what made this game so successful for the Detroit Pistons. And as I stated on our marquee here, fast break points, the Pistons were dominant in this category. Points in the paint and the bench points. Those are all areas in which Detroit really excelled tonight. I've talked about the bench quite a bit, but you look at when this team would get out and run, combined with the dominance they showed in the paint, and Blaha even said it, and he had a little bit of a tone, which I absolutely love, but the Celtics team is just not built to score or defend in the paint. And so on a night where, yes, they made 21 3-pointers, the Pistons, look at this advantage of points in the paint, 62-20. 62-20, and then 29-8 on the fast break point side of things. And there was a point earlier in this game where the Pistons were outscoring the Celtics 16-2 by fast break points. So again, it's an area that the Pistons had great success. And listen, I'm not getting ahead of myself. Please don't take it as that. But the way the Pistons played tonight, and I know they lost 3 of 4 to the Celtics this season, but this is something that you feel like is sustainable. It's replicable. They could roll the ball back out in a series and do this a couple of times. And so if I'm a Boston Celtics fan, I do not want to see the Detroit Pistons in a 4-game series. But again, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, and you can freezing cold takes me on that. You can bulletin board material if you're a Celtics fan, whatever you want to do. Just know that what the Pistons showed tonight expose some of the Celtics' weaknesses. And again, this is one game. It's a 1-game sample size. I get that. I get it. But you still can't ignore what the Detroit Pistons did tonight, led by Malik Beasley off the bench, Cade Cunningham, the franchise, and every other supporting member of this Detroit Pistons team being at their A game, all resulting in a 117-97 win in a game that was tied at halftime. I mean, the Pistons outscore the Celtics by 11 in the third quarter and by 9 in the fourth quarter, all told for a 20-point edge in the second half, leading to the 20-point win. So that in and of itself is a testament to how good this Pistons team played and what makes them so tough. All right, a couple more comments to get to. Great point here by Jim and Denise. Only 12 turnovers. Yes, the Pistons took care of the basketball as well. Only the 12 turnovers, and for the Boston Celtics, they forced 19 of them. So again, points off turnovers, the Pistons doing a great job there, 24-13 in that category. So again, just plenty of important areas in this game in which the Detroit Pistons were far and away better than the Boston Celtics. I like this question from Kenyatta Stovall. Do you think we are a Sheed trade away from a championship, or do we roll with this group? Well, this year, obviously, wouldn't happen as the trade deadline has passed. You added Dennis Schroeder and Lindy Waters, too, for that matter. But Dennis Schroeder being a guy that's going to contribute. He was out tonight. And I asked this poll question. I keep going back to it. And now, I mean, I'm at the point where maybe I changed my opinion, because I felt like a month ago and even 3 weeks ago, this was a team that's going to get in the playoffs and maybe do some damage, but gain some experience, to now where, again, call me recency bias, whatever it may be, but I do believe this is a team that can win a playoff series. And I don't think they're at the sustained upper echelon level of competing for an Eastern Conference title, but certainly closer to that than where we were a year ago. And I know that's pointing out the obvious, especially when you think about how remarkable of a turnaround this has been in just a short amount of time. It's going to, if this trend continues, and a lot of ball left, we're going to say that a lot. There's definitely a lot of basketball left. But if the Pistons continue on this upward trajectory, you're going to be looking at one of the all-time great single season turnarounds from worst to, not first, but you get the point, from worst to upper echelon in NBA history, which would just move mountains. That's the best way to put it. This season would move mountains for the Detroit Pistons. All right. We are going to take one more quick timeout and then wrap it up with our studs and duds. So do me a favor, during the commercial break, let me know on the studs and duds who you got. And if you're new around here, it's real simple. You let me know a stud of the game and a dud in the game, and we will discuss. That's coming up next on a live Locked On Pistons postcast here on Locked On Sports Detroit. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Pistons postcast is brought to you by DoorDash. That's right. Listen up and listen good, NBA fans. You got to get ready, because when they swoosh, you save thanks to Dash Pass. Every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the very next day. It's very simple. When a player scores 50 or more in a game during the 2025 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Save that cash. How about it? So if you want lunch on the go, you need a quick and easy lunch the next day with Dash Pass. You get your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees, reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. Maybe you got the late night cravings. You're watching a game out west, or you're just catching some highlights or staying up late, and you need that midnight snack. You got to use the Dash Pass to grab something delicious while saving big. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save when any player scores $50 or more in a game, 50 points or more in a game. Let's try that again. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the very next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50. Listen, if you didn't hear anything else, just hear the NBA50. That's the promo code, NBA50, from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. Studs and duds portion of the program. The Detroit Pistons knock off the Boston Celtics. It's alive. Locked On Pistons postcast 117-97, the final in this one. Thanks as always for being on our live post game show. Make sure you subscribe. Doesn't cost you a thing, and it helps us out a great deal. You can subscribe for free. Set up the notifications as well so you never miss an episode. And pretty soon we're going to be in April in the D, where we'll have Locked On Pistons postcast and Locked On Tigers postcast. Watch a little spring training today. Saw Tarek Skubal on the bump, and AJ Hinch gave us the breaking news that Tarek Skubal is in fact going to be the opening day starter for the Detroit Tigers. How about that? The defending Cy Young Award winner. But you got to love it. Hearing Jason Benetti on the call just gets me excited for baseball season, but really excited for an April in the D like we haven't had in decades. It's been so long since both the Pistons, Tigers, and Red Wings, add them to the list as well. Still trying to get a Locked On Red Wings post-game show. I'll talk to the bosses about that one. But point being, man, is it a good time to be, it's a great time to be a Detroit sports fan. Okay, all righty. Let me get to a few more comments here. We've got Mike tuning in saying destroyed the champs without Ivy or Schroeder. That's right. The Pistons were shorthanded tonight. Shout out to Marcus Sasser on the filling in for Schroeder off the bench there, and he played really well. All right, studs and duds portion of the program. You got to give Malik Beasley our first stud. That's pretty easy. I mean, led the way with 26 points for the Detroit Pistons. Great stuff there. Jayson Tatum had 27 to lead all scorers, but he was minus 11 and 10 of 19 from the floor. 18 points for Derek White, who he lit it up in that second quarter, 5 of 10 from the long line. But Malik Beasley, my goodness, a huge spark off the bench for the Detroit Pistons. You got to love what you saw from him. 26 points plus 12 for the evening, 2 assists. And there was a couple of times where he got to the rack in addition to going 6 of 11 from the floor. And Malik Beasley, one of those guys off the bench, and you see this a lot, and that's why they have an award for the six-man award, that can add so much to a team even without being a starter. And he knows his role with this Detroit Pistons team. And I'm sounding repetitive, especially if you listen and watch the post-game episodes where every time he goes off, I just say how valuable he is to this Detroit Pistons team. And especially with Ivy out, he adds that second score that is so desperately needed. Tobias Harris has been really good as well. Cade Cunningham's next on the stud list, though. 21 points for him, plus 12. And with the 11 assists, so a nice little double action there. You got to love that. The interesting stat I heard that Natalie Kerwin said on the broadcast that I did not know, but he has 11, 35 in 5 games, which is pretty impressive, more than Jayson Tatum, who has 10. But that being said, we can sing Cade Cunningham's praises in a multitude of ways. But other studs, Tobias Harris, again, in this winning streak, you've seen what Tobias Harris was brought to Detroit to do. To be the steady unk, just like they call him in the locker room, to be that veteran presence, to do just enough to add that third scorer, play great defense, and to be efficient. And he was 6 of 10 from the floor, 2 of 4 from the long line, and even getting in on the action with 9 rebounds as well. So you love what you saw from Tobias Harris as well. And I'm just going to do the entire bench because they were fantastic once again. And you give them, let's say, 45 points off the bench, 45 points off the bench, which is amazing compared to the Celtics, who had 24 points off the bench. So the amount of, 26 points off the bench. The amount of outscoring on bench points that the Pistons showed tonight was a clear advantage for Detroit, and one more reason in which they were successful tonight. So, man, a really fun night tonight. There's no doubt about it. No other way to put it. And I'll reiterate what I said, that it's one game. It's a regular season game. We're not raising any banners. So please, if you're saying I'm too excited about the Pistons, you can shove it, because I'm acknowledging it's one game. But it was a huge step in the right direction. 8-game win streak. The Pistons have been as good as anybody since the turn of the calendar. JB Bickerstaff deserves a lot of credit. Trajan Langdon deserves a lot of credit. And man, we as the fans are the beneficiaries of this exciting time to be a Detroit Pistons fan. All right. I agree with Mike Laundrie here. Maybe ESPN will talk about our streak now. Perhaps. But that's not for us to decide. You know who will? The Locked On Sports Detroit YouTube page. And if you missed today's episode, every show is available on the audio platform Locked On Pistons. The Locked On Tigers show will be available on Locked On Tigers, so you can always find the audio show of tonight's postcast episode of Locked On Pistons postcast. So have a wonderful night. Don't forget, you got to sign up for the newsletter. I know Koo works really hard on that newsletter, and all you have to do is go to lockedondaily.com. It's a free newsletter for Locked On Pistons. You get your Locked On Pistons newsletter. It's your one stop for ultimate team and league coverage, and it's delivered right to your inbox, and it is free. LockedOnDaily.com. Our next show will be Friday after the Pistons take on the Denver Nuggets. How about that, sports fans? Looking forward to that. An 8-game win streak against one of the better teams in the Western Conference. Down go the Celtics tonight, courtesy of the Detroit Pistons. 117-97, a beatdown at the Little Caesars Arena. Great stuff to see at LCA. For everybody tuning in, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe, set up your notifications, and let's do this again on Friday. My name is Jake Rietma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Rietma. I'll be sure to follow back. Team follow back? Do people still say that? I don't really know, but have a wonderful night. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching the Locked On Pistons postcast.